Well, the Titanic exhibit is a big hit, isn't it?
It's going very well for us. We opened it in March. We've had almost 40,000 people since March to the exhibit.
That's amazing.
Museum attendance over that same period's up like 40%. It's huge. It's been a great exhibit for us.
Wow.
I've been twice now. I was fortunate enough to go on the press tour the day before the real opening, and since Charlie was coming back, I went down again, and the iceberg is bigger, you know, and it's got such a tender feel when you're going through it. I don't think it's something that's just, you know, because we know the Titanic for so many years, but what we've got here is what you guys have done is amazing down there.
Great. It's been a great exhibit. It's never been to New Mexico, and it features objects and real stories from the crew and the passengers. So the objects tell stories, and that's why museums are great places to visit, and what stories the Titanic tells.
And part of the tour is you get a little card before you go in, and it's kind of like you're living through a person through the Titanic.
Yeah, I've seen people in the exhibit going, look, that's me who said that, and you know, they put themselves in that role.
Yeah.
And of course it leads up to a dramatic conclusion as you figure out if you survived the voyage or not.
Yeah.
Now these artifacts, give us the background on them, how
well,
they were
it's
acquired.
a great question. When the ship sank, it broke, and artifacts just rained down on the ocean floor. And the front part of the ship rests on the ocean floor about 12,000 feet down. Total darkness, total cold. Sat there for till 1985, I believe, and then they found it. Well, then they found these artifacts that had rained, and they started collecting them. They have not collected artifacts from the ship itself. They wanted that to be a memorial to the people who passed away. But on the ocean floor, they picked up these artifacts. So everything from china, suitcases, pieces of the ship itself. But what was interesting is when they opened these suitcases, there were paper artifacts that had survived.
Oh, wow.
There was clothing there, something to do with the way the leather had been tanned in those days. And in such an extreme, cold, dark environment, things had survived. So the stories are pretty dramatic.
I have a shot of some of the china pieces that were on the Titanic for their food service. And
yeah, I mean, just think about
look at that.
a shipwreck down, again, 12,000 feet down, and here this fine china survived. And they have pictures of it laying in the ocean bottom. And then in the exhibit, they've arranged them those same ways. So again,
beautiful.
From that far down to here they are in New Mexico.
So there's no actual parts of the ship then?
There is a porthole from the ship in the exhibition. They've recreated a first-class cabin and a third-class cabin, so you got a sense of that. The idea of class was really big in that time, and you really see it dramatically aboard the Titanic.
Here's the first-class cabin that we're looking at now. And
exactly.
They recreated that. This is what it would have looked like if you checked in for the voyage and traveled first class.
Yeah, and the ticket prices, you know, in today's dollars were astronomical. I believe the first class relative to today was like $100,000.
Oh my gosh.
Incredible prices to get aboard the Titanic.
This is the third-class cabin.
Yeah.
Recreated all the way down to the White Star blanket on the bed.
That's
so
where
4 people would room in one of these, just one room.
Yeah, very small, very small.
$100,000 equivalent in today's dollars to travel on the Titanic.
Well, you look at some of the names that were on that ship, Astor and Guggenheim.
They had the bucks.
Yeah, they did. So
they did, and here it was. You know, it was supposed to be the biggest, most amazing ship of its day. It took 10,000 men, 3 years, so 30,000 people years to build the ship, and on the first voyage it goes down. I mean, that's just an amazing tragedy.
It really is. So how long ago was that? Just in terms.
1912.
1912.
Yeah, 101st anniversary this year.
Oh, wow.
In April. All right. And from the time it hit the iceberg, it took about 4 hours to sink. So it didn't, I'm sorry, 3 hours to sink. So it didn't, you know, it happened relatively quickly.
It was really quick.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, what an exhibit. Well, this has been something wonderful for the museum and of course gets people in the door to see all the other offerings that you have. What's down the line for the museum itself? What do you have coming?
Well, absolutely. We'll follow Titanic in October with an exhibition. We're looking at something more science-oriented, and I don't have a contract signed yet, but I do for next summer. There's a real interesting exhibit called The Wonder of Learning, and it's about early childhood learning. And what an important topic for the state of New Mexico.
Yeah.
So we think there will be a lot of educators from around the state coming to it, young parents. It's all about getting your kids a great head start and how you can really empower them as learners. You know, kids are little sponges. I was looking at your SpongeBob Highlander, and kids are little sponges, and this is a way, and this exhibit will highlight a way for parents to really work with kids.
So the Titanic exhibit goes through, is it September?
October 27th.
Okay.
October 27th, yes.
We have a
So
few
we
more
still have
pictures.
some time to check
Yeah.
it out.
What did you bring, by the way?
And I brought something for you guys.
I'm so excited
For your
about this.
set.
He wouldn't tell us what it is.
Yeah. Well, what we have here, it's one of the only things that the public can own from the Titanic.
gosh.
This is a piece of coal that was actually aboard the ship, and they collected it off the ocean floor. So it's one of the few things that anybody out in the public can actually own. A company out of Atlanta did the salvaging. They have 5,500 artifacts, but they collected coal and made these little things. So I thought I'd leave you guys a little museum exhibit for your set.
Look at that.
Thank you
Wow.
so much.
It reminds
There you go.
of,
It's almost like a moon rock. Look
Yeah.
at that.
yeah, you know what?
This-
It could be as rare as a moon rock.
It
absolutely.
really is.
Thank you.
That is amazing. Thank you so much.
Look at that. And they have it numbered and authenticated and everything
How many
else.
of them are there?
You know what?
Pass that there.
I mean, coal drove the Titanic, right? So there was tons of coal aboard this ship, and they've collected it. And these are actually little pieces that they'll sell in their gift shop to guests to remember what the experience was like.
Wow.
This is marvelous.
It is, you know, everybody knows the story, but when you walk through, I think it takes, especially with these boarding passes, and you find out whether you survived at the end, it really, it touches your heart a little bit more. It's spectacular. So thank you guys for bringing the exhibit in.
Well, we're very happy to bring it to Albuquerque and New Mexico, and we'll come and tell you what's next when we get it on board.
Well, the Titanic's, the whole story of the Titanic, and as you were describing it, how long it took to build it, and it was the most modern thing of its time. It's really a parable of humanity, that no matter how much we engineered this not to sink,
yeah, well,
it sank.
I've had a lot of thoughts about that.
Yeah.
You know, the sea walls in New Orleans, the Columbia, you know, things that we tend, and pushing boundaries is what we do, but on this, you know, here it was the biggest, the best engineered, et cetera, and we still lost it. So it lets us know as we push boundaries, things can happen.